I Don't Know Yet is not affiliated with any specific 12-step fellowship. The content put forth are the thoughts, opinions, and experiences of the host and guests. It is meant to be suggestive only and is in no way a reflection on how to work the steps in any fellowship or how to work any other recovery program. Hey everybody, my name is Jen and I am an addict living in recovery. I decided to talk a lot about my experiences and the experiences of the people that I lean on in the programs in and out of the rooms. So welcome to my podcast. It's called I Don't Know Yet, and it's about everything recovery. I'd also like to introduce you to my producer.
Hi, my name's Chase. I am not a part of the program Active Addiction or Recovery. I am no stranger to active addiction and the active recovery, though. So, Jen, what brought you to doing this show? Like, what was your initial be like, hey, I want to spread my word moment?
Well, I mean, besides the fact that my ego as an addict loves to talk and tell people my opinions and what I think, I think I've found that over the last 4 years being in recovery, there's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of people that don't get an opportunity to hear the messages that can come through because of biases to some of the things that we'll probably be talking about in this intro episode. But ultimately, I came from a place of being broken, hopeless, and suicidal, and being able to utilize the things that I want to share on this podcast are the things that saved my life. And if it can help somebody else, then I want to shout it from the rooftops.
Yeah, that's a great image to spread. Your life lessons are how you got to where you are today. So, I mean, the good and the bad, they go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other.
Mm-hmm.
You say biases for the program. Now, I guess that could be quite a few things, couldn't it?
Yeah, that's a pretty loaded statement, I guess. So I can only speak from my own experience. But I know for myself, the first time I ever tried sobriety recovery was in 2007. I went to a treatment facility for 28 days. Looking back now, I really see that I did not go for myself. I didn't go because I wanted to change. There were some circumstances in my life that I wanted rectified, and I thought that was the easiest way to get what I wanted. And so I went into this program, and they had a bunch of 12-step group-based things there. And the moment I entered the room and I saw all of these steps on the wall and saw the word God, my brain immediately snapped shut to the idea. And I don't believe I gave my recovery a fair chance at that time.
Well, yeah, you kind of stepped into it a little loaded yourself, right? If you weren't going for your own personal reasons, you were trying to fix something that you viewed as broken, but wasn't necessarily yourself or something that you could change. That's a big step in the wrong direction, I guess.
Yeah, probably why I only stayed sober for a month after.
That's the road to recovery, right? We all struggle for different reasons. The God word on the wall that threw you off, I guess that could be taken in a lot of different directions.
Yeah, and I think that there will be episodes in the future that go into a lot more detail. But
yeah. No, just pull it down a little bit. Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah.
We're good. All right. Testing. 1, 2, 3. There will be more talks on the show, but the Coles Notes version is that a lot of us struggle with what the word God means when they see the steps on the wall. And so I had linked that to a very religious God idea, which I was not a fan of. Because my belief system was that there was no God. I threw a 2-year-old's temper tantrum, essentially. I remember being in treatment and saying, isn't this just fucking typical? I don't believe in God, so I don't have a chance. Typical. Right? Addicts love their self-pity. But the Coles Notes version is that it is, the word God is just the word, right? It's what the word represents. And so the easiest way that I can explain it is that people come to the rooms not because their lives are going well, because they're broken, right? And so
Aren't we
drugs,
all?
right? Drugs or alcohol run our lives, and they are much bigger than we are. So the idea of the God word is if it's so easy to understand that something tangible like drugs or alcohol can be bigger than you, then why is it so hard to understand just the simple idea there might be something bigger than you that's better for you too?
But yeah, that's a great concept. And I can relate to that in a way. My upbringing was split. My mother came from a very Catholic Christian home. Um, so her view of God was, going to church, being all about your family, praying, Bible, that sort of stuff, right? I mean,
Hmm.
she didn't force that on us, but she offered it us as an option. And on the other side, my stepdad was a heroin addict for a long time. Um, Before he was in our lives, he was through that. So he was in some sort of recovery after while he was in our lives, not using heroin, but still very much addicted to substance abuse in other ways. His idea of God was it stands for good, orderly direction.
And that's a really great way to look at it. Just trying to do the next right thing.
Yeah.
For me, they talk in the rooms about using your own conception of God or whatever that means to you, and that it's entirely personal to you, and that's fine. I like to share what mine is to me, just so that people have another idea. Mine's literally just the universe, the flow of energy, karma, good and bad juju, like just trying to ask something, an energy force that's beyond myself for help and strength.
Yeah. Realizing that you're not always in control of what comes your way. I mean, we are all responsible for causality. We do things, there's consequences to those things that we chose to do. But a lot of times, the situations you can come across aren't based on anything that you did. It's just a random encounter with a random person that can completely go sideways at any moment.
Yeah. And I really hope that anyone listening doesn't make the same mistake I did. Get the information before you pass judgment on it, is really my recommendation on that.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're going in with blinders, thinking you're basically setting the expectation before you have the information, which is always room for disaster. You're going in loaded.
And that's one of the great things about step one and really understanding the powerlessness of your disease. And this another great thing that the book talks about a lot is addicts and alcoholics have to be beaten to a point of reasonableness. They have to be beaten and hit a bottom so low that they're literally willing to do anything. And we call it the gift of desperation. Not a lot of people understand that the gift of desperation still spells out God.
Yeah.
Just another one of those things.
Rock bottom's a powerful thing, and a lot of us have seen a very rock bottom or a low in our lives that would help us spring back and try and attain being a better person. But reality is, it can get a lot lower. We've heard stories from some people that are like, "Holy, I'm hurtful for you for the things you went through."
It's amazing how many people I come across in the rooms that are so many levels below the bottom they thought was their bottom. And that sucks.
Yeah.
My experience is the bottom is 100% when you stop digging. My journey started not by choice. The second time around, which was also terrifying because I already knew if it wasn't for me, it wouldn't work. My journey was court mandated to start. But because of the fear I had surrounding that, I became willing to take suggestion. I stopped digging.
Yeah.
And I followed the instruction, and now I have a great friggin' life.
Right. So through fault of your own, obviously, you were forced to change your lifestyle, and your rock bottom essentially was the fear of how much worse things could be if you didn't change that lifestyle. You seen this low of low for yourself that you'd never experienced before, and you went, holy fuck, it could be so much worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it sucks that us as human beings, we have to reach that pinnacle of fucking desperation in order to be able to finally start growing and not digging down, but being like, all right, let's dig out of this hole. Let's find the person that should be sprouting out of the ground instead of withering and dying down here in this ditch that I dug.
And I think that that's something that throughout this process I've really come to understand, is that you never understand, have gratitude, or really appreciate the good things in this world until you go through that hard shit.
Yeah.
You don't appreciate joy and freedom and serenity until you go through broken, painful, and miserable and depressed.
Well, yeah, we've all been there without being at a bottom, right? I mean, that's active addiction. You're constantly searching for something that you don't know how you're going to get. In a lot of cases, it's just you put yourself in a situation where the only emotions you can feel are typically negative ones.
I mean, I guess that's up for, it depends on the person, right? Like I used drugs my last year and a half to self-medicate. A lot of addicts and alcoholics use drugs or alcohol to numb out. A lot of them use them to increase the emotions that they're feeling, or I think that all depends.
Yeah, but I think what I was trying to say is the emotional escape, when you're using is to mask those negative emotions and those negative feelings that are taking control when you're not high.
Understood.
And
you nailed it. That's literally what phase 1 of being an addict is.
Like I said, I'm no stranger to addiction and recovery. It's been a different process for me. My experiences with addiction were not so much personal usage, but watching the downfall of others from their usage. So my bottom was very similar, to the extent of how much worse could my life be when I've seen people like just continuously give up, and the only thing that matters is the active addiction. You're constantly seeking that next.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that next.
But the next can be so many things, right? Like, what is addiction?
Oh gosh, it's like one of my favorite things to talk about. One of the more difficult things for somebody to understand, even as an addict, it took me quite a while to really wrap my brain around this information. Suffering from the disease of alcoholism or addiction, what I've come to learn is it falls in 5 stages. So stage number 1 is a spiritual malady. So we are maladjusted to life. We are restless, irritable, and discontented. Essentially, our brain doesn't function as a whole. They call it insanity. But if you imagine like a pie and there's 2 pieces missing, you still have 8 pieces of the pie, but it's not whole. That's how our brain functions. So we don't know how to think in a full way. And
you're constantly searching for that missing piece.
We just make poor choices because we don't think fully,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
We are unable to live life on life's terms, and we are unable to cope with the effects of our actions. And so that leads into stage 2, which is the mental disease or the obsession. So when we cannot deal with life, our brain starts to say, you know what'll make this better? Going out and using. Even when you're trying to quit, even when you don't want to pick up, even whatever the case may be, your brain will convince you that the solution to the problem of being maladjusted to life is to pick up. And you will turn from the thought to an obsession until it is paramount to all else, and you will give in to the temptation. And that's why you see so many addicts that want to stop, but they keep picking up. Then you roll into the 3rd stage, which is the phenomenon of craving. So in an addict or an alcoholic, a normal person can pick up a beer, pick up a shot, do a line, whatever it is. They can do that and be done. and say, that felt really good, or I didn't like that so much. In an addict or an alcoholic, it sets off this manifestation of what they call an allergy, which essentially means that the second they put that substance in their body craves more immediately. So they always say 1 is too many and 1,000 is never enough, because you'll find that the more, nobody just drinks a flat of Pepsi. Like it doesn't happen. You have
There
not
are sugar
nobody,
addicts,
right? But like with these normal substances, you have as much as you need and then you stop. And when an addict or an alcoholic that puts this thing in their body, they crave more and they have to have more. And the more they do, the more they have to have. That essentially puts them into stage 4, which is a spree. An addict or an alcoholic will use until they are stopped. What does being stopped look like? Getting arrested, physically passing out, your body starts puking it up, running out of money, right? Having a loved one tell you to put it down, or picking you up, or whatever the case may be. But you'll go on a spree until you're stopped. Then you emerge into stage 5, which is being remorseful with a firm resolution not to do that ever again, if you're lucky enough to wake up out of the spree, which a lot of us are not.
So generally speaking, when we refer to addicts, we're thinking about people that are essentially, I feel like powerless is not the right word, but they're essentially powerless to help themselves out of the circumstances until something drags you out of it.
That is 100% correct.
Okay.
100% correct.
So, and the same thing could be said for more than just drugs and alcohol, no? Like,
I'm sure, yes.
Binge eating.
Oh, yeah.
Sugar, caffeine, all the things that make us feel good about ourselves when all we're really trying to do is just fill a hole at the end of the day, I guess.
And that's the spiritual malady, right? When you fill that and you never set off the terrible emotion and cycle, you don't have to deal with a lot of that stuff. It's just that drugs and alcohol have such a harsher consequence than yes, granted, binge eating, that's terrible for you, and too much sugar and all that. But, picking up fentanyl is a lot more dangerous one-time thing than it is to pick up an extra coffee.
Yeah, I get
right?
you. We're seeing a lot more deaths on the streets and in family homes due to drugs and alcohol than we are to overeating and a high intake of sugar.
Right. And so this 5-stage process just it rolls over and over, right? You roll back from being remorseful into the fact that you cannot deal with your life. And now, because of everything you just did, you probably have more problems you can't deal with now, and you'll just continue on. And so the idea of the program of recovery is being able to find a power greater than yourself to solve that malady so that you don't roll into that.
Yeah.
To summarize in a very simple fashion, if you want to know if you have a problem with drugs or alcohol or anything, you just need to ask yourself 2 questions. When I say I'm not going to pick up, can I do that? And if when I'm using, can I choose when I stop?
Okay.
If you can say yes to both of those, you probably don't have a problem. But if you cannot say yes to those, you're most likely suffering from an illness that is beyond human aid.
Yeah.
And that's been my experience. When I said I'm never doing this again, within hours I was fucked up again. And when I was using, I had no control over how much I took. I would steal from everybody. I would get fronted. I would do anything that I could to just keep that high going. I could not put it down once I picked it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's I can agree with that. If you can't say no to those 2 things, or if you can't say yes to those 2 things, and then yeah, you would be powerless to your addiction.
How the hell do you stop if you can't stop picking up?
Yeah, there's tricks, I guess, but I mean, at the end of the day, if you're still seeking, you're gonna find it.
I found it here.
Amazing. What else is in that big book in front of you?
Oh man, the big book. So
I call it the big book because it's a big book.
It's literally called the big book. Oh, my big book. So the big book is the program of action for 12-step programs. When I first saw it, because I also don't like reading. So when I saw this, I'm like, how the hell am I ever? This thing is huge. So the program of action in this book, which we will be referring to a lot on this show, is the first 164 pages. So this is the program of how to go from a hopeless state of mind and body to a much better life The rest of this is personal stories from people over the years on how they found a higher power to work for them and how they used the 12 steps to save their life.
So this show is basically going to be a combination of both of those things, right? We're going to be talking about those first 164 pages, how they helped you, how they could help others, and sharing your stories and the stories of people that you've met along your way.
Yeah, it's really going to be that there is going to be a lot of talk about specific steps from the 12-step programs, only because I use them every single day of my life.
If it's what's working for you, why change it?
Right? A lot of what we're going to be seeing as well is just recovery topics that aren't really covered in detail in the instructions on wellness. So I'm going to have people talking about what it means to be honest, open, and willing. How to find a higher power, what early recovery looks like, what it looks like when you become complacent, which happens to a lot of us when we get well. It's going to be a lot of just everything recovery related. And I think for the most part, I'm coming up to 4 years sober. Oh my gosh, in 2 months already. That's
Congratulations.
crazy. Thank you.
It's a lot of work.
That's crazy. It feels like yesterday. But yeah, so everything that I've really found in my 4 years, I'll get something, then I'll struggle with something, and then it'll take me a while to get it, and then I'll learn that, and then I'll find something else. And so all of those things that I've struggled with, those are the main topics that are episodes that I'm going to be making first. Because I know that if I struggled with them, a lot of other people do too.
Yeah, we all need a little bit of advice and help along the way. I mean, it's not, you're not alone in this world. There's a lot of people struggling. There's a lot of people going through the same thing you are. But if you're not willing to talk about it and be open-minded, you're never going to meet or find those people.
It's true. It's true. It's amazing as well, like even out of the rooms, just seeking, I don't know. I love to use the word Zen. Like, I try to live a very Zen life. My life is very rooted in spirituality, prayer, meditation, trying to respond to life, not react to life. These are all things that you learn in doing this process. But I try to live a very grounded life. And in doing that, I attract a much higher caliber of human to me, even outside of the rooms.
Yeah.
And it's just really cool. You attract what you are.
Yeah. And I see that in my daily life as well, just trying to be a better person after a lot of shit that I'd been through over the last few years. If you're not self-reflecting and taking your personal growth seriously, you're stable. You've plateaued. You feel like there's nothing else you need to do to grow. You're okay the way you are. But as you kind of look around, you need to evaluate how you interact with people and what you're gaining from those relationships with these people. Are you giving or just taking? Are you coming to this table with expectations? And are you okay if those expectations aren't met? And that's, for me, Zen is about avoiding conflict and taking the path of least resistance in the most cases. Whether it's, driving your car or having a conversation with your boss or a random person on the street who may have negative emotions to you, how are you going to deal with these situations? Are you antagonizing them, or are you trying to minimize the conflict so you can move on with your day as happy as possible?
And see, that's another reason why I think I'm really excited about putting this out there, because this information in this fashion, I mean, granted, you can find it anywhere, but the information that you get in the rooms of these fellowships and of these groups, people that don't have addiction issues don't really go to the rooms, right? And so the basis of what the program is, the basis of what the book is about, the basis of the steps is just becoming that better human being. And so I'm really excited to put this out there, because anybody that watches this, whether they know someone in addiction, whether they've been in addiction themselves, or whether they're just a normal person, there is something for everybody on this show, because it's ultimately about living as a better human every day.
Yeah.
That's all it comes down to.
We're both on that same path, but we're living different worlds, right? You're in the program, you're doing recovery in the way that works for you. I'm not in the program and I'm seeking to be a better person on a daily basis. So how is that not recovery at the same time?
Well, it's also not a coincidence why we get along so well.
Hey.
Hey.
The universe tends to bring you what you need when you need it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't know how to open your eyes and watch for those signs, these people walk past you on the streets every day and you're no better off for it.
Yep. Yeah. It's crazy how much paying attention to the little things, like just how many, I call them God shots. Even though I still to this day don't like the word God, I prefer the word universe. But they're everywhere. When you want to look for them, they're everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to accept the signs for signs, you know, if even little things. But perceiving those signs too can be tricky, you know, is it a good sign or is it a bad sign? How are you going to take what just happened? So hopefully the book kind of helps you figure that out along the way.
It does. It really does. One of the harder concepts to learn, which really has shifted for me a lot this last year because I've been practicing it a lot. Moving from fear into faith, right? What that ultimately means is finding acceptance in everything that is. Right? So I don't worry about what's going to happen. I don't worry about what has already happened. I try to be present and take everything that I can out of a specific circumstance at that moment. Right? But a lot of people, myself included, spend so much time worrying about shit that hasn't even happened yet. And that causes me to downward spiral and act out in what we call defects of character. But for me, I've really found the ability to take the most out of every single day and not fucking worry about anything. Like it's about being present. It's about being present.
Take what's in front of you and stride.
And that's it.
Right? You're not thinking about the past. You're not looking back. You're growing. You're in that constant state of what's next. And it looks good on you.
Oh, thanks. Stop it.
Keep smiling. You got this, kid.
Well, thanks.
All right. So, how can people find you? What are they looking for on social media?
Oh my goodness. So everything that says I don't know yet. So I have a Gmail, which is I don't know yet, yyc@gmail.com. I have an Instagram, which I've literally never used because I don't know how to use Instagram. So stay tuned.
Yeah, that's coming.
I'm pretty sure that's I don't know YYC as well. I'm going to have to check. I don't know yet on Facebook, and it's attached to all my personal stuff as well.
We're going to have to change that.
What?
Your business only account? No?
What? No, I did it. I have a personal one and a business one.
Oh, okay, there you go.
I'm all over it. I don't know how to use any of these things.
I thought you changed your name to
oh, no.
On Facebook
all of my personal stuff, I'm going to obviously be posting it all over my personal page. But I have like a personal business page and a business page. I only know how to use things when it comes to the interweb that people show me. I spent 20 years in basements getting fucked up. So I didn't learn how to use technology.
Learning curves.
So if you have any issues trying to find me.
We'll recap this on another episode. Don't you worry.
Yes.
All the links will be in the description.
Amazing. And YouTube.
Of course, YouTube.
I have a YouTube channel.
Right?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, look her up. It's called I Don't Know Yet. She's got a lot of great content to bring you. I'll be behind the camera. You won't see this face very often. So
I'll make sure I pull them out every once in a while. All right. Thanks.
Thanks, Jen.
Thank you. We'll see you for the next one.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing all the episodes coming out.
Hell yeah. Represent. I don't know if I can reach. Yes.
Big ass table. Have a great night.
Peace.